So today we're going to continue to take a look at the alternative future of the world. We are now into part 11 of this series, and we're moving right along. This series isn't doing so well anymore, and so I don't know if I will be continuing with this, but if you do want to see more, make sure to let me know by liking the video, and subscribing to the channel if you're new. All support is greatly appreciated as we try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. And so yeah, let's get right into the scenario. So in the last few videos, we saw the collapse of the CSTO, Russia, and China. If you look at the alliance map, we can actually see that the modern Russia and China, like from 2024, practically don't exist. The CSTO used to be spread across the globe, but now there are only 3 countries, 2 of which only joined in the last video. And those countries are of course Indonesia and Pakistan. Now speaking of Indonesia, they have recently gained a lot of power in the Southeast Asian region. They did lose some land from Thailand on the mainland, but they did annex all of the Philippines during the last war. In one of the previous videos, we did see that Papua New Guinea left the WDO because they felt pretty safe from China and other CSTO members. Well, that kind of backfired on them because, yeah. So now we have Indonesia declaring war on Papua New Guinea, and this war is pretty much over before it even starts. We immediately have Indonesia pushing over into East New Guinea and taking out a lot of land. But now we actually have a new country join this war, and it is none other than Australia. They are the only oceanic member left in the WDO after all the other countries left, and they are afraid of Indonesia's expansion in the region. In this alternate timeline, Australia and Indonesia are actually pretty evenly matched, so this should be an interesting war. Nevertheless, Indonesia does continue to push through Papua New Guinea. They then spread over to the Solomon Islands, taking them out very quickly, and now they're preparing to spread down to the rest of Oceania. But now, Australia is mobilized, and they make a landing in southern Papua New Guinea. They make another landing over here, and this one also goes quite well. And they make some landings on Indonesian islands, and begin to hop from island to island. Pretty soon, Indonesia does begin to push back against Australian troops, and Australia doesn't want to lose all this land, and after a very brief war, they're actually going to do up a peace treaty. Okay, and so taking a look at this peace treaty, we see that Indonesia annexed almost all of Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. Australia gets to keep a few of the southern areas of Papua New Guinea and a few of Indonesia's islands that they did take. And now aside from war, we actually have France and Germany uniting together to form the European Union. And if we look at the alliance map, we're going to have some more countries leaving the WDO, such as Ireland, Hungary, Scandinavia, and that includes Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, along with Spain and Morocco. So now there's only about 6 or 7 countries in the WDO if you include Australia, and that's not a lot considering that this stemmed from NATO, which has 32 members in 2024. But with there being no real threat from Russia or China or other countries anymore, there's really no need for an alliance like that. But one threat to these countries is probably going to be Iran or Pakistan, but they're way over here, so they don't really have to worry about them. It's more so the Asian countries, and if you want to see more on that, go watch the last video. But speaking of Iran and Pakistan, they're declaring war on Afghanistan. If you look at the alliance map, they're really the only Asian country, I guess, in this region that's not in any alliance, and they want to make sure that the CSTO continues to spread, even after losing almost all of its members. No other Asian countries will be joining this war, except for Arabia. That's because they want to take over Iran's exclave, and they want to help to bring down the country. In other circumstances, Turkey would likely join this war, but if you saw what Iran did to them in the last video, then you'll know they probably don't want to go to war against them again. But with Arabia joining this war, they actually have the rest of Africa joining this war too. Or the African Union, I should say. And so to start this war off, Pakistan takes over the panhandle of Afghanistan and pushes in slightly. Iran pushes in from the north and west, and they both make a campaign from the southwest too. A lot of these go quite well. Well, I shouldn't say quite well, but they go well enough, because Afghanistan, of course, it's almost impossible to invade because mountains and stuff. But they do push out from all along their borders, and eventually their capital is taken. And actually we see the surrender of Afghanistan as their economy is struggling because there's not really any trading partners or anything in the region. But they will likely be integrated into the CSTO, depending on the outcome of this war. While all that was happening in Afghanistan, Arabia pushed in and captured almost all of the exclave of Iran. Actually, they did take over the whole thing. and they started a campaign into southern Iran. Well, now that Iran isn't distracted with Afghanistan, they actually managed to push back Arabia, and these countries want to end this war. The blue team doesn't quite want to end it yet, as they want to take more land, but they're going to be okay with this, and now they're going to do up a peace treaty. Okay, and so taking a look at this peace treaty, we see that Arabia annexed all of Iran's exclave, and Pakistan took over the panhandle of Afghanistan. Iran took a little bit of land in northwestern Afghanistan. You might be wondering why there's not really any major wars going on right now. The world is mostly in a time of peace. There's a lot of unification. A lot of the alliances are falling apart. A lot more neutral countries. But there will be one more war for this video, and that's actually going to be over here in America. We have Florida and the North Mexican country declaring war on Mexico. But there's one country that doesn't like that, and that's actually the United States. Well, by the United States declaring war on these two countries, that pretty much brings in the rest of South America. And you might be thinking, well, the USA could probably take on South America. Well, this isn't the same USA from our modern day. They're a lot weaker, they've gone through a lot more, and they've lost a lot of land, as you can tell. But by the US joining this war, we actually have California joining this war, and of course, the rest of South America. You might be wondering why NATO isn't getting involved in this, or I guess the WTO. Well, that's because they don't really like how the USA is getting involved in all these wars. They're kind of getting themselves into this mess, and they're not going to come to the aid of the US because they got themselves into this war. So, right away to start off this war, Florida and northern Mexico pushed into Mexico, taking out a lot of land along the coast. And the country pretty much falls within days. That is until the US and the American troops arrive. But around that time, the rest of South America's troops are also arriving, and they're able to push back the US quite substantially. California pushes out from this area here, and they push along the coast to connect up with northern Mexico. We actually do have the US making some gains in northern California, but those don't last long, as pretty soon they are pushed back, and the US makes slight gains against Florida, but nothing substantial. The US decides this is a war they don't want to fight, and all these countries are going to meet for peace. Okay, so now taking a look at this peace treaty, Florida was left alone. Mexico is divided between northern Mexico and Florida, which I guess northern Mexico is just Mexico now. California got a little bit of land in the south, and the US took a little bit of land in the north. And California and Mexico are now connected. We don't really see any changes in the alliances. California doesn't join, although they were invited. Mexico is split. This map just isn't updated, so it will be for the next video. But while we're on the alliances, we might as well talk about some countries in South America. Colombia actually leaves this alliance. Same with Argentina. We actually see northern Mexico and Florida also leave this alliance. All these countries want to be a lot more neutral. There's really nowhere left for some of these countries to expand. They're kind of held back for expanding by this alliance. So Orange Alliance is only now Brazil, Bolivia, and Venezuela. Over in Africa, we actually see Chad uniting with the North African Union. And we actually see the South African country and Mozambique uniting with the East African Federation, or I guess just the African Federation. I don't know, a lot of these countries have just grown so much that their original names just don't fit. And we could possibly even see a unified Africa in the future. One other notable thing is actually Morocco joining this union. They just left the WDO, and they don't really want to be invaded by this country, although that's probably unlikely to happen now. Now we see two huge African countries, and then South Africa, which is now going to get invaded by the rest of Africa. They're kind of a puppet state for them, and they're not that strong, so it's pretty easy to invade them. And in the peace treaty, they're fully annexed. So in the future, we could see a fully unified Africa. You never know. And that is actually going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Leave any comments or video suggestions below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.